Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to this morning's episode. One day you will realize all your enemies were nature's movement. And so I want to speak about human psychology and how it's a container. And so as pressure is formed, this pressure requires to be released. There's a very interesting quote from Tibetan Buddhism, and it's from Sogyal Rinpoche, Potro Rinpoche, I don't know who specifically, but it was from Tibetan wisdom, where the quote is, "Unless you conquer your anger, your enemies will be inexhaustible." And just the idea of an enemy, it's a branding process. That means if people realize they don't know each other's eyes, it's very hard to still have enemies. That means there was a moment in my life where I felt it was justified to push those who push. What I would say, it was a big insight when I realized every moment of resistance in my psyche was a resistance against something in nature. You see, this is the biggest, I would say this is the most important philosophical pointer. That man's relationship with the natural world doesn't have to be only humanized. And it doesn't have to either be dehumanized only. For some people, they're introduced to immaterial ideas when they are young. These immaterial ideas make them become comfortable with the material as a sort of round circle, as a 180 degree before the round circle. But there are those who are indoctrinated in materialism. And it's not even something indoctrinated, it's something that, it's like nobody has ever deceived people, just accept what they think is it. Alright guys, I need a more ambiguous song, hold on. There we go. This song is like the soul of the universe yearning for itself. I'm just saying that if the person is introduced to material information at first, they will find comfort with it. Usually information or ideology that the child is raised in, the child doesn't doubt, it emotionally accepts. The same way you can say a child trusts the parents and what the parents say to the child when the child's very young. Or how the parents raise the child, it's as if like that trust gets adopted. You can say that we are on some level on our psyche copy-paste machines. On another level of our psyche, we use these patterns that we copy-paste from the outer realms to remodify or review the outer realm. You know, that means it's like I see the pattern of a cup, I see the pattern of a table. And so I see the pattern of a cup on a table. But if I was to suddenly innovate this pattern, I would go back to the pattern of the cup, I would go onto the pattern of the table, and then I would either add another dimension or separate the other two dimensions, or whatever way one can play with the moment. What I mean by that is I can visualize this coffee cup hovering in the air. I can imagine a coffee cup a company makes in the future, that this coffee cup for demonstration, they're like, imagine you never had to put your coffee cup down on a table. It's just whenever you let it go in the air, it would just stay in there. Can you imagine we reach the era of no longer objects like cups, plates, and basic phones falling? It's like everything just hovers in air, you know? We have to consider that it's the emergence of a creature. So a creature has started walking, or a part of the world has started walking on itself. The world started to walk on the world, you know? I don't know, it doesn't get more poetic than that. So a part of nature, or nature divided itself into a self and a world. And this self not only was named, but adopted language and became a personality. What a personality is being a person while you're being a person. While you're being present as something, you're being something else to the something that you're being. You know, that's our personality. So I'm just saying that because we did, through language, through awakening to language and using it as a overlay upon the world, really the idea of an enemy, or even the idea of a friend, if ideologically one is considering, it is in some sense as if the idea of a friend and enemy, it's not there. But the idea of beings that care in the moment and beings that don't is a complete different analysis of the same thing. I'll tell you something unique. Throughout my time, and I mean honestly, since being a young kid, I was always like, because I had a lot of energy, I would get into fights, and in those fights I wouldn't even back down because it was like an energetic experience. It was like But I'm saying that they reached a point where I had a dream, and in that dream I got the realization that I need to message everybody, every human being who I have tangled my karma with in regards to disturbance and violence. And I remember this person who I had a problem with, I sent him a message. And I'm like, hey man, now I realize that probably I was doing something to upset you, and you were doing something to upset me, and none of us noticed, right? And so I became friends with the enemies I had when I was younger. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Two of them specifically, two people specifically, who I got introduced to their soul through confrontation, through intensity, but then through dialogue and the power of the mind, I'd managed to see a human being there. You see, this is the biggest thing about anger. This is really shows the old soul from the young soul, where the anger of the old soul suddenly, before being released, is held. It is held in the inner realms. Why? Because the other has empathy. Empathy makes your hand that's about to slam suddenly your other hand to hold it, you know? Can you imagine, like, the person's about to punch someone with the right hand, the left hand, faster than the right hand, grabs the right hand before the punch hits the other person. Yeah. You could even say a martial art technique could be developed from this, where the person tries punching something, they have to grab their forearm before their punch hits the target, right? Can you imagine someone practicing like that? This could totally become a martial art. But anyways, What I'm trying to say is that we are a creature that identifies with its environment. It doesn't get spoon-fed only baby food. Everything in the environment spoon feeds to the person what the experience of reality is so far. It took me a while to personally catch on to this notion that we are not concepts, yet we have built a world that centers around them. And it's this tricky point in civilization where we went from object worship, then after object worship, we went to subject worship, and the subject worship hasn't stopped. So as long as it hasn't stopped, I will constantly point it out. And so beyond the subject worship, that is where the freedom beyond the sensory domain lies. And out of all the human beings that have existed, I would say the mystic traditions, the wisdom traditions, were the ones that they touched upon it. You see, I noticed something very fascinating going on. Anytime a human being suffers, either the human being as a human being does something about it, or the human being tries to escape the humanization that harbors suffering within it, right? And we tend to feel that divinity, recently my view on this has changed, where I personally was under the impression that divinity meant something that was per se just beyond the human. But the idea of the beyond means it could never be judged from the below. You know, it's like when there's something more, you can't, it's like when there's more rooms to, let's say a cosmic mansion and we're in one room, we can't judge the whole room based on one room. It's being content with humanity. You know, different psychologists have spoke about the inner child in different ways. But I will tell you, the inner child is like who you are now, like a future self standing beside who you were in your memories. That means it's an acceptance of the simpler versions of you before you can activate any sort of complex, non-resistant rhythm, right? The human being is way more advanced than we have been thought to believe. You know, that means it's like what has happened is that an unconditional consumerism for information is bypassing the experiential reality of the situation. What that means is it's as if children are born in a silent instance of a universe. You see, it's like if there was no language, if there were no stories, if there were no alphabets, it would be a situation where it would be a silent event. From a silent natural event where it has no divisions, we divided it into self and world. That means the real world has ideologically become self-world or world-self, whichever yin-yang you want to be about it, whichever way you want to see. For me, I've experienced so many different states of mind that even though I'm speaking about it now, I know it's like a wild animal. I know that the mind is not like an engine. It's not like an engine where a person can just say, yeah, this is what this part does and this is what that part does, and all minds are the same. You know, it's like, it's not that easy. The thing about the wilderness of nature is that it surpasses the ideological domain of the person. So you see, when I feel I know what's going on in the moment, there's trust. Anytime when I don't know what's going on, there's distrust until the trust realigns, right? But it took me a while to realize that one can trust the unknown for what it is. That means we are here in the observable universe thinking about like, oh man, there's an unobservable universe, we just don't see it. But what it is the observable is the tiniest percentage. of the unobservable, you know. That means I thought about it, how poetic would it be? I mean, seriously, if we took Fermi's paradox to the next level and we implemented a parallel universe theory where we're like, yeah, in one universe only Earth is inhabited, all the other planets are uninhabited, right? But let's say in another parallel universe, the Earth is the only planet that is uninhabited and all the other planets are inhabited. Can you imagine we're missing all the other extraterrestrial species that could potentially exist because we're in the wrong room of our Earth? Imagine. And there is a value to forgiving. Somebody said, don't forgive just for the other person. Forgive because you deserve peace. That was one of the biggest things to take away, really. That it's not because of like this is I don't know how to say it, but there's many moments in life where I would say they are walking in the museum kind of moments, where the person is just passing through and there's no necessity of touching anything in the moment. When I say touching anything, that means any sort of experience. You see, there's some beings who become so non-dualistic that the world chooses their duality for them. And there's some beings who they choose their duality. When you choose your duality, you are choosing to still engage the individual. Right now, the civilization we're not that multidimensional yet to be like when we see people, we just be individual, right? We maintain the individualism throughout the day 24/7, right? I shouldn't say 24/7, but in the conscious waking state, in all the amounts of hours of the day the person is awake, it's like there's an attention that's carrying the moment, right? Right now, regardless of any ideological acceptance of the realm I could potentially have or fathom, I know that there is an experiential presence that moves in accordance, independent or unconditional to any expectation the past can generate for the future. In many of my talks, when I share how a sort of unique transition in experience took place for me, it was a preferenceless state. I can't emphasize this enough. Preferenceless state means like it's like you opened your eyes and there's like your computer screen's brightness, and whatever the brightness is set, that's preferencelessness. The person is content with whatever there is, because it's not about what the information is, it's about how the information moves or somehow finds a way to belong to the moment. You know, there is a spirit beyond the word spirit. That means, imagine there is a wind. I mean, that's a more secular way of saying it. An intelligence, a wind-like intelligence. And I will tell you, there is intelligent currents moving all around space, even through. That means independent of what our planet appears. Independent of gravity and whatnot, there is currents. Like, imagine we think empty space is empty, but imagine we realize it's an ocean, and just like a fish in an ocean, a fish can go into a current, right? A fish, the moment the fish goes into the current, it's like the fish is on the other side of the ocean, right? And then the fish suddenly can learn to surf the unconditional conditionally. And then in that moment, you know, Mr.Within will give you a high five. Okay, you have advanced your communication. You have realized nature is here. After you realize nature is here, you realize nature is alive. After you realize nature is alive, you realize nature's life and your life are inseparable. In the same way a drop moves in a river or moves in the ocean. It is the ocean. You see, it's an opportunity to be individual. ancient spirituality was like beyond human is divine, I will say modern spirituality, neo-metaphysics will be to be human is the ultimate evolution of divinity. It's literally why the divine exists, right? And when we separate, when we make man bad, if we say, like, you see, this is a strange thing in the Abrahamic religions, which really ideologically, from like a theological view, confuses me, where I'm like, okay, so you're telling me a God created a creation, then God set a situation where the creation had to listen to God, as if God was testing his own creation. And so the creation makes a mistake in heaven, right? And so when the creation makes a mistake in heaven, man falls, right? So from the Abrahamic view, the Abrahamic traditions, it's like Adam is like the descendant, you know, the earliest ancestor of the metaphysical landscape that's considered. So what happens is God does not forgive man. He does not forgive a creation that didn't know better. And so the creation descends, it's as if man falls, and something else also falls with him. And then a message arises that which did not forgive you, which you are now in your situation, now forgives you. Now, what's even more mysterious than this is the idea that where did God make earth? Where did God make earth? That means, where is earth? That means we know there is heaven. You know, we know that it was from, I'm speaking in a theological lens, guys. Theology is the study of religion. So, you know, but it's a lens, it's a view. Everything is a view. No thought can be a person, an attention can navigate can animate as a person through a moment. So it's as if all earth is still in heaven and nothing left heaven. It's as if a person's imagination we consider is still in their brain, right? We say in modern view, in a neurological view, that whatever I'm imagining, it's inside the brain. But what if the brain is inside something? Maybe rather than intelligence being limited to the brain is an antenna. And it's inside a bigger signal. Therefore, when the moment the antenna receives the signal, the antenna is not the purpose, the signal is. There is a beauty, an incredible metaphysical beauty to being human. I would say it's another way divinity is walking, because really when it comes to divinity, either everything's divine or nothing's divine. It's either it's all or nothing, you know, it's like poker. Because truth cannot be stretched between two worlds. It breaks usually. In the same way they say two tigers cannot be on the same mountain. You know, that means when it comes to the nature of truth, there requires a freedom of the inner space. We have built a civilization that doesn't give freedom of inner space. It takes your freedom of inner space. Why? Because the person doesn't even know they have inner space. They don't even realize that their mind is living like a program, another life over their biological body's life. It's so fascinating how many moments we experience as an individual that is timeless. Because our view is first person view, We don't think of ourselves as something like, we don't see ourselves 24/7 as an object. We're looking through an object. I have fought what in my mind I felt were resistances, was the force going against me, was tyranny, was discrimination, was whatever. And it's like at the end of like this battlefield where you fought for a very long time, suddenly realize you were fighting your own kinsmen. There was a scene in a very incredibly profound scene in the show Shingeki no Kyojin, this Japanese show, where it's this messed up universe where you can say there's these giants eating human beings, but they don't eat anything else, like they care for nature, they just eat human beings. And for the longest time, the people in this show, the good guys, they have no idea what these giants are. Then they realize suddenly there are other human beings who've mutated based on something, right? So they realize this whole time they've been fighting these giants that have been killing them in the story. Those giants have been human. Now, the moment they get the news, there's a commander, the main commander named Erwin, he's in this bed with his hand like eaten by one of those giants, like his arm. Right, so he's chilling in the bed and he's shocked by the news. And then there's another, I would say, like a second, it's like another person, the right-hand man, the Commander Erwin named Levi, and Levi's just getting shocked. He's getting that kind of strange numbness. And so Levi looks at Erwin and he sees the commander is smiling. And he looks at Commander Erwin and he's like, Erwin, why are you smiling? Like as if it's a messed up fact in the universe of that narrative, right? And Commander Erwin, even though realizes this chaotic truth, he's smiling because he says, we have just taken one more step towards the truth. That means even though chaos arises, it is still information for the general. But for the common man, for the soldier, chaos is, run away, rather than to see how chaos moves. Do you know? Sometimes from the order, you get to see it pretty good. So the idea of realizing all those people who we have thought in this realm have been enemies, people where we should go and like bring out Thor's hammer and be like, yo, do you know who I am? Rather than trying to be Thor in front of our enemies. It's as if the person suddenly realizes, wait a minute, this is a human being that I have no idea who they are to themselves. I have no idea what kind of space of mind they have to themselves. Do you see? It's like the human sensitivity is kicking in, right? So the person suddenly sees, okay, this is a human being. And then the person sees, we are all human beings on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Everybody's freaking out. Tell me one person who isn't suffering or isn't confused in this realm. Everything is this giant mystery where we're just trying to find whatever system of advancement we can. It's like, honestly, we're cast away on a galactic island, and because we haven't realized this, we've taken things for granted, and linguistic wars have been allowed to occur. Do you know how advanced and multidimensional the human being is? This means every story that you have heard about the human being, the mind has an ability to ascribe it to a singular human being or to ascribe it to every other human being. It's just the moment it can notice the human design, it can respond to it. Imagine there was this next level enlightened yogi, and this enlightened yogi is like, come people, come here, come to enlightenment people, and people come and they're like, what's your teaching, enlightened person who appeared like a Pokemon out of nowhere, And the enlightened person, imagine, says, my teaching on how to transcend humanity is to be as human as you can be. In trying to be human properly, the being will learn and be able to discriminate then from what is beyond human. That means a metaphysics that ignores what the physics implies It's as if it's like we should have the fearlessness to look at the physics and then be like, what else? And then wonder about metaphysics, you know? Because tell me, what are theoretical physicists doing? Playing with the imagination of truth? Of the factual truth of an updating view of a universe? I mean, come on. Who are we kidding? One ideological system is an endless update. The other ideological system is a painting on a wall. And human beings are like, what do I choose? What do I do here? So you see, this is the true, I would say this is true universalism, to be human. And to realize others are human. See, so first you realize how you are human, and you've been learning from that automatically since the beginning of your life. Now, in this life, based on how much the person has trusted the realm and communicated to the world, they will have also been introduced to other modalities of humanhood outside of their inner realm. Right? So what that means is it could be a situation where a person saw two people in a fight, and one of them, I don't know, defended with his arms up, and the person's never been in a fight, but suddenly when the person got in a fight, their arms automatically went up, right? As if there was a reference in the psyche. There was a reference somewhere at the edge of this thing we called mind that backed up instantly the conscious. That means, imagine we're like, no way, the unconscious mind is sponsoring the conscious mind. So that's the thing. We require to release the sword and shield that we did not consciously pick up, then look at the world, then look at ourselves, then choose to dedicate to whatever, I don't know, faction of movement. You know, there's so many systems on this planet that are living like human beings. That means it's like, for me, it's like all institutions are just group minds. What we call culture is a group of minds. It's like get a bunch of minds together. It's like, what is that? Is that a cult? Is that a culture? Right now we have cultures. Hopefully in the future we're gonna have cultures. You know? Just change the R and the U. You know? Instead of culture, the culture is a true culture. Where we have cared and we have realized it's okay for multidimensional acceptance, right? That means human beings can still communicate to one another regardless of their differences. I am telling you, when you realize that there is experience beyond the language threshold that cannot be put into language, you realize there is endless possibilities of communicating with everything, as by noticing even its value to nothing. That means it's like, you know how in the what was that show called, Lassie, where it's like there's this kid and this dog comes out of nowhere and the dog just barks at the kid and the kid's like, oh no way, there's something going on in the farm, oh my god, like the kid interprets, somehow goes like next level genius, and from the barks of this dog it like sees a movie. Right? So it's like the character is like, the kid's like, what are you saying, boy? You know, sometimes I feel when I look at emptiness, when I wonder and try to fathom non-existence, I'm like, what are you trying to tell me, non-existence? It's like, come on, emptiness, what are you trying to tell me? Oh man, we're so much more advanced than our beliefs are promising us. It's ridiculous how human beings are living. Like it's like we are born with just this recognition we're a part of nature, but the stories may tear us apart. You know, the stories kick us out of our own natural home. The stories that don't belong to the person, but the person lives through. Right? I would say, you could say that every person, regardless of where they live physically, it's like, where is their mind living? Right? Like, you can have a person in 2020 living like it's 1980s, you know? Literally everywhere they go, their attire, their style, their mind, it's as if they chose an allegiance to that time frame, you know? So what I'm saying is we're cherry picking how reality means something to us, and we're not noticing this because we're imagining. Okay, so reality was imagined. Nobody can disagree with that. It had to be. It had to be like all the words we use now, and we're like, yeah, the truth means truth. Like the word truth, some dude came up with that, you know, or some person, some, you know, or maybe even a. I'm just saying that our eyes are a film overlaying the reality of an inseparable energetic event. So now, let's say you're a person, we got to think of an algorithm that's more universal. That's what I realized really from the work of the ancient Greek philosophers, that because they were thinking universally, they quickly passed global issues, cultural issues, national issues, like because they were thinking of what would a universal human being look like, right? And even moving beyond the ancient Greeks, I will tell you Buckminster Fuller. Buckminster Fuller has this quote where he says the universe man, but he doesn't say it like that. He says the universe man. Like the man, the universal man. That's how he's saying it. That means ask yourself, whoever you are you ready to be a universal being? Not per se just a human being. A human being is a phase of evolution. It's a conditional relationship with the moment. How many human beings are willing to wonder about the unconditional? How many human beings are willing to, for a second, be like, what if everybody's wrong and nobody can look it through my eyes like how I do? So what if the journey has to be done from within with the self, right? That means the person has to consciously sit down in this world and forget everything and look at the world anew, and then, based on what they see from that new view, allow their memory to, you know, resurface. There's many ways we can move. Just study your attention and the secrets of first your universe open up, then your universe opens up and notices, like from with. It's like when we truly go within, there is no within or without anymore. It's only as long as there's identity in the outer realms, there is a within. It's like our mind is inside our body and our body is inside our mind. If we are to be a character in a story, our body is inside our mind. If we have free will, our body is inside our mind. But when, for example, the person, like, you know, the other side, like it's two sides of a coin. It's the biggest sign that language is an illusion. It's just a suggestion. Language is thin ice. Just the paradoxical nature of the realm. I will tell you, all of human knowledge, this is a very bold statement I'm saying, all of written, documented, spoken human knowledge is 1/4 of the potential of being. 1/4. That means our civilization has depended, its whole future has put all the eggs into the basket of the basket of the future in 1/4 of what is actually going on in the room. That means imagine you had a candle and you were in one corner of a room and only 1/4, or somehow, like, you know what I mean? Like the light didn't, the room was so big that only 1/4 of it was illuminated. Right? That's where we are. Right? And the world is way more multidimensional again than we have been said. That means really, what can a human being say? It's like human knowledge, unless we're future fortune tellers, it's like, what value does it have? Do you know, unless the person knows the exact future, there's no point of holding on to knowledge. Because there's still unknown variables, you know. It's like the warrior that looks for a fight gets defeated by the warrior that doesn't look for the fight. Why? Because psychologically, the warrior has done nothing to deserve, so at the same time, it's nature, right? So it's as if, like, imagine every human being has a relationship with the spirit of nature, so whatever happens in the outer realms, nature's gonna be like, I'm friends with this person, you know? The spirit of nature. I'm just trying to say that our individualism is a blessing. Our collectivity is a blessing. Every enemy that the person can fathom, everybody's going to die, first of all. Everybody's going to break down elementally. This container of the periodic table, subjective container of the periodic table, it's like the subjective container is going to stay, but the elements inside the container leave. So, compassion is the only weapon. Mr. Within will say people in this universal sector should allow themselves to fight any enemy. And why is that? Because everybody is fighting a battle we can't see. The moment we forget this sentence, we forget our humanity. That means every person, like, you know, this is especially something important that children need to be conscious of, right? That, for example, in the child's mind, it has the archetype of mother, father, person, teacher, you know, football player, all these archetypes, right? But then there has to come that level of suddenly reality sinking in, that it's like every person being anything, even including myself right now, you know, right? Every person is a living system, and not a system that we can have mechanical expectation of perfection from, right? So it's as if Salvador Dali has this quote where he says, this great painter, surrealist, pretty much the father of surrealism in art, he says, do not fear perfection, you'll never reach it. You know, so many people try to be perfect. To who? Compared to what? You know? Acceptance of nature, what greater perfection can there be? Accept the world and everything in it is you've somehow accepted it all. That means those people who love the world, especially I would say, like I remember myself as a child, it's like I didn't have the view that I'm on a planet and I'm on a person in a nation and all this. It was just like energy was just expressing itself, just like a kid playing soccer, you know. And so it's fascinating how much we are not ideological creatures, but the only way we have created a system of communication is to be an identity. I would say we are only individuals when we speak. In silence, how do we know we are an individual? In stillness. Let me tell you what the smart warrior did. Not the brave warrior, not the loving warrior, the compassionate warrior. What did the smart warrior do? The smart warrior made the enemy recycled resistance into collective victory. That's it. We need to literally recycle individual ignorance into collective clarity somehow. The world is here not only because we are. It's also here because of what we will be. And I feel this is the miraculous force. I feel the future is guarding its own potential. That means the past has an allegiance to the past ideological systems, they prioritize themselves than any other ideological system. When we look at the past, that's how all ideological systems appear. So if we were to think of the same as the future would prioritize itself in the same way the present. That means when a person is in the present, in a moment, just being, right? That means what is here and now, is the priority, more prioritized than anything else, right? The truth has been prioritized more than the illusion, so life is becoming true, for example. So if the past prioritizes itself, if the present prioritizes itself, and the future prioritizes itself, if the future prioritizes itself, it will counter the present and the past. So what we think is karma is the potential future of the species shielding itself from the ignorance of the present. That means karma is the future minding its step. This is just, of course, a view. And you know, I thought about it that some cultures, like let's say we had a utopia, it would get boring. It's part of our expressionism to have a sort of competitive dimension in the human being, right? That means how do machines update? You know, you just program them. How do human beings update? They compete. They change their programming in accordance to their environment, right? So right now, we can't ignore how we have a giant growing capitalistic system. Right now, the system is either like how a lot of old political science professors are like, yeah, you know, we've got to change the system. It's like, oh, really? You know, you know, like we gotta like. And another view is that rather than change it, we start treating what we would like that system to be, right? So we gotta say a system. It has individual elements. Everything I'm saying, it's like words ultimately, right? So words are like the basic elements of a speech, or speech in general. What is greatness? And how is the human being involved with it? That means every person, just like when the sun hits an object, if you were standing in the sun, there would be two universes. There would be the universe where the person looks behind them and they see their shadow. And they, for eons, and imagine an eternal being staring at the shadow of their temporary continuity. So the being is staring at the shadow, after eons, suddenly the sky commands, turn. And so what is left is like this blinding truth. A truth not for a subject. That means it's as if in the civilization of shadows, or I should say the civilization of shadows disappeared the moment the sun arose. For example, in Japanese metaphysics, they had incredible interdimensional, they had narratives that were pretty interdimensional, like in their metaphysics. And what that means is that there were as if two worlds. And so your behavior in all the things that we think, oh my God, look at these people back in the day who were superstitious. We on one angle, we're like, oh, look at them freaking out over nothing. But to them, they were witnessing a multidimensional landscape. They were witnessing another face of the world that others could not see, right? We are moving from the era where knowledge is an exclamation point back to the era where knowledge is a question mark. And I will say some moments it's easy to just like, especially those people who are into meditation, metaphysics and whatnot, it's like let's call it your human consideration. Right? That in every moment the person has to be like, if I was human first, then any other idea, what would I be? Right? When a person is alone in nature, sure, go, max out your mystical self-inquiry. But when in society, a sort of chess game level of, and this is hard to say because I'm not the perfect avatar of per se a social person. I'm like an extroverted hermit, but I'll tell I would say the more people actually, the more unknown minds are in the room, the more intense the unknown variables of any situation become. It doesn't even matter if it's a human, I shouldn't say mind, let's say if it's a human brain or if it's an animal brain. That means when you're in nature, it's like let's say a person sees a wild animal, right? The person's not going to be like, hey, wild animal, don't attack me, please. And the animal's going to be like, oh, sure, man. No, the animal has no psychological disposition. That means it's like every opponent, that a person, even if there was a challenge of some sort, there is a brain. It's like in military tactics, I think it was in a movie, where it was like cut the head of the snake and the whole body drops. That means this was even in Sun Tzu's Art of War. That the general, when two generals are fighting, are in the battlefield, the general that disconnects the other general from his soldiers, that means the moment the soldiers of one army, imagine this is back in the day, ancient warfare. So the disconnection from the cause and the effect, right? It's as if like the cause and effect need to be connected. The expression and the reception of it, right? So the general that could somehow get the other army to doubt their general won, just instantly knew, right? So there was always this two faces to war, too many dimensions. I would say pretty much like the generals were like they were walking into multiple rooms. Every person they would see was a room, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, there's a lot of stuff there, but if you read it with desire, you are a fool. If you read it with selfless eyes, you may find the wisdom. And guys, there's this song, I can't play it, but I'm listening to it. I'm going to post the link here. People can play it on another tab of their own browser, and they can hear that song I'm listening to behind the talk. Anyways, what I'm trying to get to is like pretty much An object became a subject to itself. This subject is treating the object very strictly, gripping it with truth. Like, yeah, this is the only truth. This is what that person deserved. You know, this is what is real. This is what I've seen is the only ultimate. You see, it's all like gripping the outer realms without the elegance of the inner realms, realizing what can a subject have. Can someone tell me this? If we are all saying our egos, our senses of self is a subject, we're a thought, what can a thought have? Does a thought have hands? What can a thought hold? And so this is where the mystery of the soul is like lightning roaring in the skies, you know, it's one of those things where the person's like, oh yeah, I totally forgot everything's unknown and the mystery stands, you know. There was a person in, I would say yoga, in the tradition of yoga, a very unique person. His name is Papaji, this yogi. And this yogi, when he was young, he was a soldier in India, and in his break, like soldier break from the military or whatever, he wore his military uniform and went into all the temples and tried to intimidate the enlightened gurus to tell him the ultimate truth, like a bulldozer. He was explaining it in the video that way, right? And so Papaji would go to this temple and he'd say, "Where's your guru?" You know, and they'd be like, the guru's there, and they tell the Papaji says to the guru, "Show me truth right now, and if you can, excuse me," he says, "Show me God right now, and if you can show me God, I will become your loyal." What did he say? He said, "I'll become loyal to you if you show me God. If you can't show me God, don't waste my time. If you have seen God, show me God." Right? And so he would go to every temple, just one by one, to the temples in India, and just like pretty much like force enlightenment, force extract, you know, enlightenment, right? And so a lot of the disciples would get angry. It's like, "Buddy, we've been here endless amount of years. Are you kidding me? You think you can get it in an instant?" Right? And Papaji's like, "The truth has to be an instant, fools." And he walks on. Papaji, eventually, nobody can show him God. And I may be not remembering it correctly here, how it happens, but he eventually meets this sage named Sri Ramana Maharshi, and he has a discussion with him about God. Now, I may be confusing two different events here, but pretty much Sri Ramana Maharshi gives Papaji the wisdom. He's like, "Buddy, you're looking for God. The whole point is that God that comes and goes is not the real God. The God that comes and goes is not the real God." Take that in, whoever's listening. You see, we're not here to play with the language of truth anymore. Our ancestors did that. Right now, if we behave like our ancestors, we have not updated. Failure. That is a sort of failure of potential. You know, it's not failure in the outer realms, but it's failure of potential. You can live it anyway. A person can literally just forget society, go into the wilderness and live with wild animals like Tarzan out their whole life, right? But what is it that keeps us human? It's that there's an honor there. And that honor is the journey that we've come. It doesn't matter the mistakes on the way. Many casualties there are in war. But the war against time the species has, right? So it's like after some point you see, like I'll tell you, this really broke my own heart to my own ego. You know, when I realized every person I have gotten angry at in this life, every person I felt my anger was justified to be thrown at them. You know, like an archer that didn't want to miss. You know, And I'll tell you, suddenly I realized every person I've gotten angry at, they were a child once. Holy shit. You know, they were nothing once. And it's as if, who are we to take out? You know, it's like there's something intense there. It's like it's a transcendental honor to be a human being, yet we forget it. And what is it? It's like, how long the barks of dogma? What can I say? Really, it's such a strange situation where it's like, what's gonna happen to 8 billion random movements? Like really, eventually something. It's like, unless there's an effort to organize something, chaos is gonna be like, yo, these guys don't know what to do, so I'm gonna do something, you know. So that's the thing. Right now, our species has to first try to figure out what it even means to be advanced, right? That means it's like you being a human being and asking yourself, what do my eyes deserve? And then it's like, is this the kind of civilization my eyes as a being deserve? Like, imagine asking that. Right? So imagine you realize, no, this isn't the civilization I deserve, and you wonder why. And you see it's like an emotion deep within you. And you follow that intuition, emotion, and you see that it's because a part of your mind has fathomed a possibility. That means it doesn't matter how many parallel outcomes of failure there may be, if there is one parallel universe where it's possible, then it's good enough. It's like squares can achieve their cubic dreams, you know. Terence McKenna, the scholar, said culture and ideology are not your friends. That means what cannot see us cannot even care for us to help us, right? So from the global picture, from the effort of those leading civilization, the governing system, and those who are the members of civilization, you know, the serving system, it's as if on one level individuals have to start caring for their collective identity. That means, imagine you got offended that your species is in poverty, okay? That means imagine you had the most ruthless, you know, power-hungry, egoic kind of identity, right? Let's say you were like a savage dog of this world, you know, a savage wolf king, right? So let's say even if you are, right? Even if you're a human being, let's say a very intense human being, it's as if that honor I'm talking about of the species, it's as if like, do you know what it means? It means it's like we have transcended the narratives of local family. That's just part of how the global effort emerges, right? That means if we want to be global, we gotta attempt the universal. Because we're attempting the global, we're lost, we're stuck in the national. If we attempt the universal, the global will happen. If we attempt beyond the universal will happen. What greater strategy is there? You just look as far as you can and then you move. It's like, what was your strategy? I looked at things and I ran. I ran into the moment. It's like how many how many heavens are hidden in one earth, you know? How many minds can experience a reality that is, you know, It's like if you were a dentist, this is transcendental, you know. Can you imagine a transcendentistry? A transcendentistry where it's like a multidimensional dentist for multidimensional beings. It's like only collective beings can make it working, you know, in the transcendentistry. Language is out of control. Really, it's just the honor of the unknown, realizing that everybody has a significance if they exist, you know. That means for a multidimensional being, let us say you are a commanding attention. You see, this is what children of the world are not taught, that you're in this world once. That means every logical reason to be bold. But why is it that in our society we don't see it? Right? We see rebellious outbursts, but they're responses to the past. That means, I would say that it's like when you get a species to only prioritize emotions before and actually looking at the scene and seeing the design of it. It's like, let me tell you, when emotions they are powerful commanders, emotions, right? But they are not wise, because the emotion is bound to its energetic display. So what I'm saying is that when the person is sad, you're in a sad universe. Holy shit. You know, it's like when the person is happy, oh my God, you're in a happy universe. It's as if the universe is even happy, you're so happy, you know? So it's just us remembering we're multidimensional. I want to read for the audience. I have a book here that I bought in Birmingham, UK from like this street vendor, Hare Krishna like street vendor. You know, I just asked the guy, can I see all of your books? And he brought a bunch of them, and I just like intuitively chose a bunch. You know, this is one of them. So it's the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm just gonna open a random page and let's see what this book wants to shout to the world. Such a person who has strayed from yoga obtains the higher worlds, heaven, etc., to which men of meritorious deeds alone are entitled, and having resided there for innumerable years, takes birth of pious and prosperous parents. Or if he is possessed of this passion, then not attaining to those regions, he is born in the family of enlightened yogis. But such a birth in this world is very difficult to obtain. Arjuna says he automatically regains in that birth the latencies of even-mindedness of his birth. Okay, I should have probably given a context to what I'm reading. So guys, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's this Vedic text where there's this archer named Arjuna, and he has to go fight in a battle he doesn't want to, and then God, like this is literally the story, like as a storyteller, it's a fascinating story. So God, Krishna, comes to him and starts having a conversation with Arjuna, right? So God literally appears to this archer and has a conversation with him, and this archer who doesn't want to fight, God says this is the nature of the universe, this is the will of the moment. What do you mean you don't want to fight? Right? It's not exactly like the way I'm saying it, it's way more complex, of course. But the whole thing is a conversation, and Arjuna asks about all the truths of the universe. He even asks God to show his true form in the Bhagavad Gita. And then he realizes as like a completely different conscious being, he goes and completes, like he's Like it's as if like he was a two-dimensional being freaking out. He got like a 7-dimensional awareness, came back and realized there's nothing wrong with the two-dimensional. That's just this is metaphor's sake. I'm saying this. So anyways, I'm going to continue. Arjuna. So this is Krishna saying to Arjuna. Arjuna, he automatically regains in that birth the latencies of even-mindedness of his previous birth. And through that, he strives harder than ever for perfection in the form of God realization. The other one who takes birth in a rich family, though under the sway of his senses, feels drawn towards God by force of the habit acquired in his previous birth. Nay, even the seeker of yoga in the form of even-mindedness transcends the fruit of actions performed with some interested motive as laid down in the Vedas. The yogi, however, who diligently takes up the practice, attains perfection in this very life with the help of latencies of many births, and being thoroughly purged of sin, forthwith reaches the supreme state. The yogi is superior to the ascetics. The ascetics were those who were completely renouncing in extreme ways certain things in life, right? Like those people who fasted only, or those people who thought like they just have to do one thing only, you know. The yogi is superior to the ascetics. He is regarded superior even to those versed in sacred lore. The yogi is also superior to those who perform action with some interested motive. Therefore, Arjuna, you do become a yogi. Of all yogis again, he who devoutly worships me with his mind focused on me is considered by me to be the best yogi. By the way, guys, this is an ancient Vedic text summary. Sri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, now listen how with the mind attached to me through exclusive love and practicing yoga with absolute dependence on me, you will know me, the repository of all power, strength and glory and other attributes, the universal soul in entirety and without any shadow of doubt. I shall unfold to you in its entirety this wisdom, knowledge of God in his absolute formless aspect, along with the knowledge of the qualified aspect of God, both with form and without form, having known which nothing else remains yet to be known in this world. Hardly one among thousands of men strives to realize me. Of those striving yogis, again, some rare one devoting himself exclusively to me knows me in reality. Earth, water, fire, air, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, reason, and also ego. These constitute my nature divided into 8 parts. This indeed is my lower material nature. The other than this, by which the whole universe is sustained, know it to be my higher or spiritual nature in the form of Jiva, the life principle, the life principle. O Arjuna, Arjuna, know that all beings have evolved from this twofold Prakriti, and that I am the source of the entire creation, and into me again it dissolves. So this is, guys, again, a very rare narrative where God is acting like a black hole. Where it says from this twofold Prakriti, it means 2 sides to the material nature, I find. Because there is this view of Purusha and Prakriti where they were like chicken or egg, which one came first? They were like, no. When we're wondering between whether consciousness came first or matter, whether space came first or matter, right? It's as if they were simultaneous, whether consciousness came first or matter, they were simultaneous. Not space, but consciousness. Right? So consciousness and matter are like 2 sides of a coin. They can't exist without the other. Okay, excuse me, I'm going to continue. This is chapter 10, I'm just going to start from this page. Chapter 10, Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is, I don't know, ancient Vedic scripture tunnel. Shri Bhagavan, which is Krishna, said, Arjuna, hear once again my supreme word, which I shall speak to you who are so loving out of solicitude for your welfare. Neither gods nor the great sages know the secret of my birth, my manifestation in human or other forms out of mere sport. For I am the prime cause in all respects of gods as well as of the great seers. He who knows me in reality as birthless and without beginning, and as the Supreme Lord of the universe, he, undiluted among men, is purged of all sins. Excuse me, to continue. Reason, right knowledge, unclouded understanding, forbearance, veracity, control over the senses and mind, joy and sorrow, evolution and dissolution, fear and fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, contentment, austerity, charity, fame, and obloquy. I have no idea what that is. Obloquy. These diverse obloquy. These diverse traits of creatures emanate from me alone. The 7 great seers, their 4 elders, Sanaka and others, and the 14 Manus, or progenitors of mankind, such as Svayambhuva and his successors, who were all devoted to me, were born of my will. From them all these creatures in the world have come into being. He who knows in reality this supreme divine glory and supernatural power of mine, gets established in me through unfaltering devotion. Of this there is no doubt. I am the source of all creation, and everything in the world moves because of me. Knowing thus, the wise, full of devotion, constantly worship me. Is that right? With their minds fixed on me, and their lives surrendered to me. Yeah, guys, this is literally God saying this in the book. Lives surrendered to me, conversing and enlightening one another about my glories, my devotees ever remain contented and take delight in me. On those ever united through meditation with me and worshipping me with love, I confer that yoga of wisdom by which they come to me. In order to bestow my compassion on them, I, dwelling in their hearts, dispel their darkness born of ignorance by the illuminating lamp of knowledge. Arjuna said, Arjuna is probably tripping at this point. Arjuna said, you are the transcendent eternal, the supreme abode, and the greatest purifier. All the seers speak of you as the eternal divine Purusha. Purusha means consciousness. The primal deity, unborn and all-pervading. Likewise speak the celestial sage Narada, the sages Azita and Devala, and the great sage Vyasa. Vyasa is the one writing this word. And the great sage Vyasa, and yourself too proclaim this to me. Krishna, I believe as true all that you tell me. Lord, neither demons nor gods are aware of your manifestations. O creator of beings, O ruler of creatures, God of gods, the Lord of the universe, O supreme Purusha, you alone know what you are by yourself. Therefore you alone can describe in full your divine glories, whereby you pervade all these worlds. O master of yoga, through what process of continuous meditation shall I know you? So Arjuna is being the curious student here. He says, O Master of Yoga, through what process of continuous meditation shall I know you? And in what particular forms, O Lord, are you to be meditated upon by me? Krishna, tell me once more Krishna, it's still him, Arjuna. It says, Krishna, tell me once more in detail your power of yoga and your glory. For I know no satiety in hearing your nectar-like words. So here's the thing where Arjuna, because he has the warrior spirit, he wants to see the complete truth of it, right? So there's a fearless kind of care to be the humble student, right? Shri Bhagavan, which is Krishna God, Arjuna, Shri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, now I shall tell you my prominent divine glories, for there is no limit to my manifestations. So Arjuna is pretty much like, God, so tell me, what method should I use, to, what does he say? To see, tell me once more in detail your power of yoga and your glory. For I know no satiety in hearing your nectar-like words. That means tell me your glory means like show me your truth. Show me what you are. He's pretty much, Arjuna's like God's come to him and he's like, show me what you are, right? Yeah, that's pretty much enough emphasis here. So God's answer to Arjuna is, I shall tell you my prominent divine glories, for there is no limit. That means it's like this God's pretty much that God is saying, I have endless manifestations, as if I'm like moving in this parallel universes. I'm going to tell you about my prominent divine glories. Arjuna, I am the universal self. Guys, so this is pretty much, if you ever wanted to know what God would say to an archer, this is the only place. You're probably going to hear this, right? Shri Bhagavan said, I'll read it from the beginning. Shri Bhagavan said, Arjuna, now I shall tell you my prominent divine glories, for there is no limit to my manifestations. Arjuna, I am the universal self seated in the hearts of all beings. So I alone am the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all beings. I am Vishnu among the 12 sons of Aditi, and the radiant sun among the luminaries. I am the glow of the Maruts, the 49 wind gods, and the moon, the lord of the stars. Among the Vedas I am the Samaveda, among the gods I am Indra, among the organs of perceptions, the senses I am the mind, and I am consciousness, life, energy, and living beings. Among the 11 Rudras, the gods of destruction, I am Shiva, and among the Yaksas and Raksasas, I am the Lord of riches, Kubera. Among the 8 Vasus, I am the god of fire, and among the mountains I am the Meru. Among the priests, Arjuna, know me to be their chief, Brahaspati. Among warrior chiefs, I am Skanda, the generalissimo of the gods. No way. And among the reservoirs of water, I am the ocean. Among the great seers, I am Bhrugu. Among words, I am the single syllable Om. Among sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of Japa, muttering of sacred formulas, which is just in brackets saying what Japa is. And among the immovables, the Himalaya. Among all trees, I am Asvatha, the holy fig tree. So guys, I don't know if fig trees are technically, they've been given a shout out in divine books. I don't know what we do with that. It's like people should start eating more figs probably. How do we figure out the situation? I'm going to continue. Among all trees, I am Asvatha, the holy fig tree. Among the celestial sages, Narada. Among the Gandharvas, celestial musicians, Citraratha. And among the Siddhas, I am the sage Kapila. Among horses, know me to be the celestial horse. Oh my god, there's no way I can pronounce it. Ukaisrava. Begotten of the churning of the ocean along with nectar. Among mighty elephants, Aryavata, Indra's elephant. And among men, the king. Among weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the celestial cow, Kamadenu, the cow of plenty. I am Kandarpa, the generative passion, which leads. I am Kandarpa, the generative passion which leads to procreation, as enjoined by the scriptures. Among serpents, I am Vasuki. Among Nagas, a special class of serpents. Among Nagas, a special class of serpents, I am the serpent god Ananta. And I am Varuna, and guys, this is a polytheistic tradition, of course. And I am Varuna, the lord of aquatic creatures. Among the manes, I am Aryama, the head of the Piters, Pitrs. And among rulers, I am Yama, the god of death. Among the Daityas, I am the great devotee Prahlada. And of calculators, I am time. Among quadrupeds, quadrupeds, like, I'm pronouncing it wrong, but pretty much like four-limbed creatures, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. Among purifiers, I am the wind. Among wielders of arms, I am Shri Rama. Among fishes, I am the alligator. And among streams, I am the Ganges. Arjuna, I am the beginning, and the middle, and the end of all creations. Creations, plural. Of all knowledge, I am the knowledge of the soul, metaphysics. Among disputants, I am the right type of reasoning. Among the sounds represented by the various letters, I am A, the sound represented by the first letter of the alphabet. Okay, of the different kinds of compounds in grammar, I am the compulative compound. I am verily the endless time, the devourer of time, God. I am the sustainer of all, having my face on all sides. I am the all-destroying death that annihilates all, and the origin of all that are to be born. Of femininities. Of feminities, I am Kirti, Shiri Vak, Smirti, Meda, Dirti, and Kasama, the goddesses presiding over glory, prosperity, speech, memory, intelligence, fortitude, and forbearance. There's a goddess behind these. Likewise, among the Surutis that can be sung, I am the Bratsama, while among the Vedic hymns, I am the hymn known as Gayatri. Again, among the 12 months of the Hindu calendar, I am the month known as Margasirsa, corresponding approximately to November-December. And among the 6 seasons successively appearing in India in the course of a year, I am the spring season. I am gambling among deceitful practices. I am gambling among deceitful practices, and the glory of the glorious. I am the victory of the glorious, the resolve of the resolute, the goodness of the good. You know what he's saying here? He's telling Arjuna, I am the future. Literally in all of these. All of these are the future. I am Krishna among Rishnis. Arjuna among the sons of Pandu. He's saying, I am you. God is literally telling him, I am you among the sons of Pandu. Vyasa among the sages. Rishi Vyasa, guys, some people call them the incarnation of God in language. Right? like just like they called Shirawanamashi the incarnation of silence. These are like their qualities of these beings surpass their personality. Anyways, I am the subduing power of rulers. I am righteousness in those who seek to conquer. Of things to be kept secret, I am the custodian in the form of reticence. And I am the wisdom of the wise. Arjuna, I am even that which is the seed of all life, for there is no creature moving or unmoving which can exist without me. That means, check this out, just like a person has to be there for an object to exist, a mind has to be there for an object to exist, God is saying, like, it's as if, like, okay, here, it's like, just like we need a consciousness to know that there is something in this consciousness. He says, there's no creature moving or unmoving which can exist without me. Friedrich Nietzsche says, if there's nobody in a forest and a tree falls, did the tree fall? So there needs to be someone in the forest to know that the tree fell. So that means God needs to be here in order for existence to happen. Right? So existence is the imagination of God, in a sense. Anyways, to continue. Arjuna, there is no limit to my divine manifestations. This is only a brief description by me of the extent of my glory. Every such being as is glorious, brilliant, and powerful, know that to be a part manifestation of my glory. Or what will you gain by knowing all this in detail, Arjuna? Suffice it to say that I hold this entire universe by a fraction of my yogic power. That means it's as if it's one thought for a higher dimensional being, this whole universe. Just like how we have thoughts of the lesser dimensions, right? So it's like a two-dimensional being talking to a three-dimensional being, and the three-dimensional being's like, buddy, what do you want me to tell you? There's so many different, like, it's like the cube tells the square, there's so many other dimensions, okay? What do you want me to say? Like, so here, God says, what do you gain by knowing the detail? The detail of me, which is this endless manifestation, as if God is a force. You know, like Jedis are like nodding their heads right now. I feel like reading one more page. I'm gonna make this one short though. Let's see, 392. There's no such page. Alright, 282, let's see. Fed by the three gunas, and having sense objects for their tender leaves, the branches of the aforesaid tree in the shape of the different orders of creation extend both downwards and upwards, and its roots which bind the soul according to its actions in the human body are spread in all regions higher as well as lower. The nature of this tree of creation does not on mature thought turn out what it is represented to be, for it has neither beginning nor end, nor even stability. Therefore, cutting down the pipala tree, which is most firmly rooted in the form of the world, with the formidable acts of dispassion, thereafter a man should diligently seek for the supreme state. That means pretty much he's saying the desire for this endless simulation. It's like it's like you have a desire in a simulation, then it's like you start wondering about what's the supreme state. Now this is how the Gita is explaining it, but the resolution is like it's like a round circle. But you won't know its value until you experience it. Having attained which they return no. Okay, therefore a man should diligently seek for that supreme state. It says viz. God, having attained which they return no more to this world, having fully resolved that he stands dedicated to that primeval being, God Narayana. to that primeval being, God Narayana himself, from whom the flow of this beginningless creation has progressed. He should dwell and meditate on him. They who are free from pride and delusion, who have conquered the evil of attachment, and are constantly abiding in God, whose cravings have altogether ceased, and who are completely immune to all pairs of opposites, going by the names of pleasure and pain, and are undiluted, attain that supreme immortal state. Neither the sun, nor the moon, nor the fire can illuminate the supreme self-effulgent state, attaining which they never return to this world. That is my supreme abode. The eternal Jiva-Atma in this body is a fragment of my own soul, own self, and it is that alone which draws around itself the mind and the five senses which abide in Prakriti. So it's like pretty much there's a fragment of some higher dimensional, I shouldn't even say higher dimensional, unfathomable eternal truth. It's like our mind and our senses are gravitating towards an eternal fragment. In this view, anyways. And it is, so he says, the eternal Jiva-Atma in this body is a fragment of my own self, and it is that alone which draws around itself the mind and the five senses which abide in Prakriti. Even as the wind wafts scents from their seats, so too the Jiva-Atma, who is the lord of the body, etc., taking the mind and the senses from the body which it leaves behind, forthwith migrates to the body which it acquires. It is while dwelling in the senses of hearing, sight, touch, taste, and smell, as well as in the mind, that the Jiva-Atma enjoys the objects of senses. The ignorant know not the soul departing from, or dwelling in the body, or enjoying the objects of senses. Even when it is connected with the three gunas, okay, only those endowed with the eyes of wisdom are able to realize it. The ignorant know not the soul departing from, or dwelling in the body, or enjoying the object of senses. Even when it is connected with the three gunas, only those endowed with the eyes of wisdom. Yeah, that's pretty much means like an animal is too busy being an animal to be conscious of itself, you know, to be conscious beyond itself. Striving yogis too are able to realize the self enshrined in their heart. The ignorant, however, whose heart has not been purified, know not this self in spite of their best endeavors. The radiance in the sun that illumines the entire world, and that which shines in the moon, and that which shines in the fire too, know that radiance to be mine. And permeating the soul, it is I who support all creatures by my vital energy. And becoming the sapful moon, I nourish all plants. Oh my god, this is endless. Okay, I'm going to read it until here. It says, taking the form of fire, as Vice, Vanara, lodged in the body of all creatures and united with the prana, exhalation, and apana, inhalation. Wow. It is I who digest and assimilate the four kinds of food. It is I who remains seated in the heart of all creatures as the indweller of all, and it is I who am the source of memory, knowledge, and the ratiocinative faculty. Again, I am the only object worth knowing through the Vedas. I alone am the origin of Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas too. Oh my god, I am the origin of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas too. That means no human being has ever known the Vedas. It is only when God, like from this angle, the truth is, like everything is, it's like, I don't know, truth is energy, like what can you say? The perishable and the imperishable too, these are the two kinds of purushas. Okay, that means these are the two kinds of consciousness in this world. The perishable and the imperishable. Of these, the bodies of all beings are spoken of as the perishable, while the Jiva Atma, or the embodied soul, is called imperishable. That means the moment we have a perishable dimension, there has to be an imperishable dimension to even understand what the perishable means. So it's pretty much saying that it's like there was another side to what we were in, what we opened our eyes here with. It's like a perishable dimension, the elemental form that dissolves, and then the mind, the watcher of the elemental form, that is imperishable. The presence of that viewing attention within, you know, and it transcends language. That's why I had to create the language threshold, because then everybody would be like, yo, you got an ego, man. No, it's your ego. It's like egos pointing fingers till the end of time, you know? It's like sometimes when we blame the world, we're blaming the self that has seen that world in the first place. And we're blaming ourselves. It is I. It is I who remains seated in the heart. Oh, I read that. Excuse me. Yet the Supreme Person is other than these, who, having encompassed all the three worlds, upholds and maintains all, and has been spoken of as the imperishable Lord and the Supreme Spirit, since I am wholly beyond the perishable world of matter, or Ksetra, and am superior even to the imperishable soul Jivatma. Hence I am known as the Purusottama, the Supreme Self, in the world as well as in the Vedas. Arjuna, the wise man who thus realizes me as the Supreme Person, knowing all, he constantly worships me, the all-pervading Lord, with his whole being. Arjuna, this is the last page of the chapter. Arjuna, this most esoteric teaching has thus been imparted by me. Grasping it in essence, man becomes truly wise, and his mission in life is accomplished. As if God is talking to its creation, and it's like, just notice I'm here and your purpose is complete. But it's not a God that is a shape. And this world, a shaped creature, cannot fathom an unshaped God. Hence the inconceivable factor in the universal intelligence. It's like a person can see the face of a person in front of them. They can't see the face of the universe to even consider it as to have a personality. That means it's like on one level, from the bottom of the mountain, we're humanizing the peak, and from the peak we're dehumanizing the bottom of the mountain. And he says it's a thing where it's no longer a relationship of an idea with truth, and truth is no longer an idea, right? This transcends all instruction. That means it's like, what can a person tell you in the unknown other than it's unknown? That's why I was like, even if I talk seriously, every sound every sentence written in this world is poetry in the void. So guys, that's it. I think that's enough for the, Krishna made it clear that it's an all-pervading noticing. In my experience, there is an unknown mind right now moving in a body. And when I say unknown, not that it's like I as a person don't know myself. It's just that when I have wondered how I know myself, you notice the unknown. Kind of like how Socrates said the only true knowledge is to know that you know nothing. Why? Because the more you know, the bigger the mystery becomes. But now in this modern society of ours, people know more, but the mystery is not there. So they have no reason to do anything with the information of their world, rather than to just plow through it or swim through information as if like, what are we? We're literally fishing. It's as if the person could desire anything. How do they know their desire is good for them? And that's the thing. Unless the person finds contentment with silence and stillness, and how every object has the objects don't have a meaning. It's like the Buddha said. Like there's just this factor that there's emptiness here. Whoa. It's like just the fact that there's the unknown and emptiness. I want to read actually something I wrote. Okay. Okay. I wrote this is an unpublished manuscript, unpublished book of mine. It's called The Source of Language, and I'm reading an essay for you from it. I wrote this starting from 2015 to 17. It's a bunch of essays on pretty much the source of language. So, this essay is called The Era of Communication. The era of communication has come. The era of advanced communication and communicators. Developing an understanding of multidimensionality is crucial at this time in our civilization. I hope that when you read these words, excuse me. Okay. I hope that when you read these words, you remember yourself as not just a person, but your whole moment of existence. In other words, listen through the planetary ear, the galactic ear, the whole cosmic ear. When you see yourself as the whole universe, you begin taking care of yourself. Therefore, taking care of your whole moment means taking care of all that is. So what is the task for temporal consciousness? To break the boundaries of belief and to remember the transcendental state of how attention is creation. And when we close our eyes, it is only the essence of the Creator that has always looked. What that means is first seeing the world, then God. But the absolute source of all intelligence does not belong to a changing world. It is the observer of it. So your soul of souls is the observance of existence, which means innately, by nature, you are beyond your sensory perception. When I ask you who is aware within this moment that has senses, what is the great mystery that fascinates us all behind your eyes? And could awareness be all-pervading? Mr.Within, I've given a shout out to my online alias here. Mr.Within feels it is not a bad idea to develop schools of self-awareness and libraries of mystical studies. This reality is changing within an unchangeable awareness. This can only be pointed through language, but as the mystic innately knows and is being guided so, the ego is not the enemy. Your identification with your sight is hiding the sensitivity to the seer of sight, which is not about the sensory perception, but is extending it as a tool for a self-effulgent mind. The issue then moves towards the consideration of linearity in thought and language structure and the non-linear flows of intuitive direct experience. Language is always a step behind direct experience. It's a greater dimension of awareness. In other words, language is concerned and relative to, in quotations, the observed. However, direct experience is concerned only with, in quotations, the observer. For who is reading this sentence right now? You think an ape is looking at the ink of the page and originating meaning? The mind is not a monkey, but many have monkey minds. The intensity of sincere self-inquiry suggests how much humility shall open the doors of wisdom's love in your heart. Are you a separate entity of the whole cosmos being who you are? Some mystics do not see space separate from their intelligence. Therefore they are in the world but not of it, as ancient Vedic seers of thought have suggested. I notice that the Western world has the loudest voice in media, which influences many other countries from around the world, and the eyes of many children growing up in this world. Therefore, as the consciousness of the Western audience increases to the performance of the self, and pays attention to how the, in quotations, here and now is being here, the light in your eyes is the light of existence. What can the savant demand from his mind that has not yet been provided? Observe your deepest activities. They are all innate. Faith requires patience to fly beyond doubt. Many are pushed by the world, and few realize they are the world. What will chaos order next? O mankind, these words are just a mirror of remembrance, for it seems we have forgotten we are a cosmic civilization. We always were, and our intelligence begins to go on the celestial walk. There is more than starlight here. In the Ribu Gita, it is suggested that your true presence is beyond the three states of waking, dream, and sleep, for it is the fourth state. What that means is that there is an attention within your attention that is beyond the dance of day and night, in the adjustment of the consciousness that you are. I may seem like a tool, but all I am telling you is that all intelligence is simultaneously cosmic. You think you are a person. I am telling you, you are the whole existence, for whose moment has opened its eyes. The mystic goes within to realize how the world is without. I am not a speaker of truth, but a breaker of lies. I need to update my resume, guys. The elegance of a quiet mind is the ability to hear truth. What can words communicate that is not mirrored in the depth of the existential and experiential intelligence that you are? You are the essence of a changing world that is changeless. A force is not a push or a pull, for the intelligence of energy originates out of the ability of the observer to remember the state prior to the energy's movement. We are more than packets of energy. Live the life that you are. Many temporal voices shall enter your ears, but the voice of eternity comes from within, roaring into great truth. As the blessing of all Buddhas is received, the moment is divine, and destiny was a precious treasure, innately revealed. So anyways, guys, that's the end of the essay. Really, what can I say? Our enemies are technically our human family. We can't do anything. You know, it could just be like, you know, it's like, just remember your humanity, folks, and just carry on. You know, what else can we do? And really, where else in this universe can the attention experience being a human being? That means sometimes I feel some people, not of course everyone, but some spirituality is kind of like, it's like the person hasn't realized what they're given. It's an ungratefulness sometimes. You know, metaphysics can be subconscious ungratefulness sometimes. You know, because if you attain the non-dual, you will never fear the duality. But if you, as long as you haven't attained non-duality, you obsess on non-duality. It's like a person wanting to be a soccer player is not a soccer player yet. You know, and whatever happens, they'll be like, what kind of player am I? You know, it's like there's always more. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Namaste. And recently I felt maybe I should say it, for those interested, those who care to support the Patreon, I've recently thought of like sharing certain projects, like trying out certain projects, like global projects, right? Really in a kind of philanthropic angle, right? So, I don't know, people who care for it, you know, if the wind guides you there, welcome, you know. Anyways, thanks for listening. Namaste. Namaste. No, it's like nobody needs to stay. It's all good. It's all good. The talk is ended. You know, everybody can go. Namaste. Yeah. Bless.